Well, this was a very big project. It took about 2 years to do, and it required a lot of essentially bringing the book up to date. It had been written almost more than 30 years ago. It had been conceived almost 40 years ago by the author, François-Marc Gagnon. And so we had a big job to do of essentially bringing the book up to date and reworking many aspects of it. It's a fairly straightforward process how the books come to me. I mean, I work with my publisher, which is McGill Queen's University Press in this case, and they will offer me various books, things that they are very excited about doing, and to see what my reaction is. And usually I will say, yes, that sounds great. In this case, I did not hesitate for a second to take the book, because it promised me an adventurous trip into a past that was more or less completely unknown to me, as well as into the works of art, which are just so exciting to be able to spend time with. Doing the book required me actually to spend a lot of time studying the art, which to me was one of the most special things about it. So as to the question of how one goes about appropriating or interacting with the voice of the author, this is something that it's not something that generally I find is all that difficult. It's not something I generally problematize. I just find myself diving in and becoming, I don't know, almost friends with the person whose voice is on the page, who is represented on the page, and enjoying almost working with them. Now, of course, that person is still around, and we work together on this book directly. So that's another aspect of the process. The artist whose biography I've translated, Paul-Émile Borduas, was a great painter and a great cultural figure in Quebec. He was somebody who, from a background of in the church, essentially, he was raised to be a church decorator, went on to become one of the quintessential radical modernists in painting, in Quebec painting, but also essentially in Canadian painting. And more than that, he was a person who, because of his uncompromising nature, he found it difficult to get with, to conform to the, especially certain religious constraints in the society of his time, and this caused him to rebel in the form of a manifesto called the Refus Global, which led to him to essentially lose everything. He lost everything and wound up being more or less a broken man by the end of it, because he was fired from his job, and that meant that he would probably have to he would either have to live by selling his paintings, which was a difficult proposition, or go into poverty. Instead, he chose to exile himself, and it really ruined his health as well. He paid the ultimate price for this act of rebellion, and yet it was a very principled thing that he did, and something which one could say, I mean, I don't want to be too categorical about this either, yet it's pretty clear that this was one of the signature events ushering in the modern era in Quebec. So what I love about every translation project, what really gets me going, what gets me excited about any translation project, is just this feeling that it's going to be an adventure. I'm diving into something that's completely new. And it's been great. I mean, I've been taken to the Arctic in one occasion and spent a lot of time learning about the Inuit. In another instance, I was learning about the history of African American sociology. And here I get to learn about this fabulous group of artists called the Automatistes, and the work that they did, not only to transform, to revolutionize Canadian art, but also to do much to move Quebec society ahead into a more modern, along more modern lines. It's always it's just a very exciting experience for me to go along on that adventure, the adventure that the author takes me on.